Alright guys, welcome to this new video of Solaris Ray. Today we are going to do our review of Interstellar Interstellar Space Genesis. So I already played the game a few hours, and I did a series of videos previously. You can check it out in the playlist, and this video is gonna be about my impressions of the game and giving an honest review after playing the game a good 5 hours in it, good 5 to 6 hours, and who I think the game is for. Now, if you want to see by yourself, as I said, I did 5 videos of me playing the game and giving my impressions as I play the game. You can see the link at the end of the video, but also I'll put the link in the description below so you can see by yourself the game if you are interested, and if you want to have a good idea of the graphics, of how the combats are, the display of the systems, etc. And I will highly recommend you doing so, because I hear a lot of praise about this game, a lot of people saying that this game is wonderful and fun, etc. And to be honest, I think it's a good game. I definitively had fun playing it, but it's by no means a perfect game. Okay, so let's get into the review of this game. Okay, so let's talk about the concept of this game real fast. Interstellar Interstellar Space Genesis, is for me a crossover between maybe, Galactic Civilization 3 and maybe a little bit of Stellaris, with maybe a little bit of Distant Worlds, but very little bit. All right, and the game is by no means super complicated, right? If you have a minimum of experience of 4X game, this game you will surf on it, and the reason being is because it's very well laid out. So I'm gonna talk about the pros first. There are many pros in this game. The pros is the game is very well documented. So if, for example, you have a question, you don't know something, right? You can go here. You don't know what this is. You over the mouse. You have the explanation about everything. It's like a little bit the same system than in Civilization 6, or I think Galactic Civilization does this to some degree, where you can just hover the mouse and have a bunch of information of what's going on and help you to understand what everything is about. And to be honest, I never played the game before. I just bought it on the 26th of July or something like that when it got out. I never heard about it before. I played a few hours, and maybe after an hour, I was comfortable in the game. I was able to take decisions, grow my empire. Now, does it mean that I'm a pro at the game? No, by any stretch of the imagination. But I had enough understanding of the game and how the things work out to enjoy it. And that's the good thing about this game, right? It's very well documented. It's very good for people that would like to experiment the 4X genre. Like, if you never played a 4X game before, or you played few of the 4X games and you want to get a little bit deeper into it, I really think that this game is wonderful for that. It's very good on multiple aspects, and everything that is super complicated or tedious have been taken away, so you can focus on the core things of a 4X game that are generally enjoyable for most of the people. So that's a first pro. The second pro, I I think that this game is doing a lot of things right in terms of research. The research is, it's not the most advanced that I've seen, but it's definitively pretty good. And you can work around the research quite substantially. This is everything that is green there is things that I researched in the playthrough that I did before doing the review. And I put like 64 turns in the game, and I created a race which was specific for research. And, a lot of things there are green. For 64 turns, it's not too bad. And yeah, I have the impression that while playing the game, I just scratched the surface. There are also a lot of interesting mechanics that I didn't see much in other Forest game. Like, for example, when you research a technology in a field, it makes the research on the same field more expensive. So it forces you to prioritize what is the most important, especially at the beginning. And it also has an impact at the end of the game, because if you are playing a race with not a lot of research capacity, then you really need to think what you want to research, because otherwise, if you make a mistake, then it's going to take you a lot of time to continue to research the other thing in the same field, right? It would take me twice longer. There it takes me three times the normal time, because I had 2 things researched. To research another thing in that particular field, it would take me 3 times the time, etc. And at the beginning, I was like, oh, okay. But after playing it, I said, yeah, it's interesting, It just forces you to think through and say, okay, what is meaningful for me to do right now, right? Because I cannot just spam research everything. I need to think, okay, what is essential for me right now? And it's very critical, because depending on where you are on the galaxy, what is your solar system? Like, for example, if we go in the system, there you can see I only have 1 planet. There is no planets that I can colonize. There's no asteroid belt. There's nothing. There is just my planet and a star. And that will require, a different research path than being in another system like this one, where, there are many planets, an asteroid belt, a source of helium, etc., etc. So it forces you to think through how you're going to do your research in the game. And the fact that you can randomize the research tree, I think that is pretty cool as well, because then, you can have technologies that are supposed to be in tier 2 be in tier 1, technology in tier 1 to be in tier 2, which will modify the research path that you're going to do, and forces you to rethink the situation. And I really like that. It gives replayability to the game. And that's the third pro on the game that I think. I think this game has a lot of replayability. Even if there is only 6 races, they feel very distinct from each other. They all have their ideal planets, their own perks, their own design. And you can also customize your race, just like I did in this playthrough. I created a race from scratch, and I could play the game the way that I want, which is a feature that you have to some extent in Stellaris, and also in Galactic Civilization, but you don't necessarily have that too much in Distant World Universe, for example. And this game does it pretty well. It does it in a way that is not too complicated, and is really affordable for you to create your own race. You can do it in 5 minutes if you know the game, 10 minutes if you need to read everything through, and up you go. You're in a game with your own race, which can be played in the way that you want it to be played. You want to play a warrior race, you can tailor a warrior race. You want to play a research one, an economical one, a diplomatical one, whatever suits your needs, like a utopian one, a population one, whatever. You can create it in this game. Now, you don't have 10,000 perks to choose from, but I think there is enough options there to create a unique feel to the game. A fourth pro that I will think is the combat. The combat is a good mix, right? It's like a battle grid, and you can move your ships on the battle grid. Actually, there is a video that I've been doing. I think it was in video 4 of the playthrough where I did the first, where I had some engagement, and the first battle was on video 3, first battle. And we are going to war. There is some combats there that you can check out if you are interested. But globally, you have your ships that you can move on the grid, and you can turn them. You can have arcs of your weapons. You have range, that you need to take under consideration. You can overload weapons, the shields, and all that stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't go too deep in the game to see all the options. But even at the beginning of the day, with the limited amount of options that I had, it seemed pretty good. I was interested in the combat. I felt, unfortunately, that I didn't have the occasion in the first battle to really destroy a ship. They were able to flee before I could destroy them. But it was interesting to be able to use your ships and to be able to micromanage it, or to let the game do it for you. You have the choice. And you can also put leaders on your ship to have impact in the battle, which I absolutely love. And that brings to the fifth pro in the game. I really love the leadership mechanic of the game. I think it's simple, but it's also very well done and engaging. Very, very, very engaging. As you can see, this is the leaders that I have. Like, I have 3 leaders that I've hired, 2 of which were ships leaders, and 1 is a colony leader. And they all have their own experience. They can progress in their own section. They have their own traits. They can be good or bad. They can do spy missions if they have the necessary skills. So even like, for example, you have a ship leader, it doesn't mean that they can be all about combat. You can have a ship leader that is more about, for example, research, like this guy, right? Tiger is pretty decent in combat, but he also have pretty good perks for research, right? Crew experience, +1. Yeah. So this guy helped with defense, research defense, right? This guy is a lone wolf, so he has some negative traits. He's a shifter, deep cover. So this guy is pretty good for doing spying missions, you see. But you can also do spying missions with governors, right? So, and this is the thing, like, it really feels that each leaders, regardless if they are ship leaders or colony leaders, they will be unique, right? They have their own feel, they have their own skills, they have their own traits, they have their own secondary effects. You can name them, they will progress, they will ask you things to do, and if you do, their opinion of you is going to increase, just like the governor there. I did something for her, and her opinion of me really increased, and she leveled up. But I could have not done it, and her opinion would have decreased, and that would have impacted her traits. Maybe she would have left after a while, etc. So the leaders really bring an aspect to the game that a lot of the 4X game try to emulate. And I think this game does it pretty well. It really had a good feel to your ships. It had a good feel to your exploration, to your planets, because they are managed by leaders, by characters that progress, that's going to ask you things, that's going to have concerns, and you're going to have to take them under consideration. But if you have very good leaders, they can turn, for example, the tide of a battle. They can take a dirt in a colony and transform it in something way suitable for production or research. So they really count. And I really like the leader mechanic in this game. Now, is it perfect? I don't think so. Can it be a little bit more, having a little bit more options in the kind of traits that you can have, or maybe having ship leaders, colony leaders, and maybe having other categories. Now, as I said, like, even if you have ship leaders and colony leaders, they can do things for research, etc. But it can also feel that sometimes it's a little bit clunky, because you're gonna have a ship leader like this one is supposed to be on my destroyer, is supposed to be a commander, but somehow is able to do a spying mission that can destroy, a station in an enemy far away from his ship. I don't see that how that works, right? But is that a big deal? Not necessarily, right? It's just a question of immersion, and again, it just come back from the point like, what are you looking in the game? Do you look that everything is realistic and it's a full simulation, etc.? If that is the case, I don't think that this game is going to be for you. But if you want a game that is fun, that give you a lot of options, and that you can have a good time while playing, I think you're going to have a good time with this game. It's a very good game for that. What else? The UI, the 6 Pro that I can say, the UI is pretty good and efficient. I mean, it's not the best one that I've seen, but everything is functional. Everything, you can find everything that you need. You can navigate the different aspects of your empire very easily. You have the notification there at the same way that Civilization 6. So if you don't want to miss something on the turn, you can refer to that. And once everything is done, you can move to the next section. It's a well-thought game. I love it very, very much. The other pro that I can tell, I think the 6 Pro that I can say, I really love the exploration aspect of the game and the mechanic of being able to do remote exploration, saying like you can scan from your planet from far away to know what is in those sectors. At the beginning, I was like, I don't know, like this is the first time I'm seeing this. That looks very squarey. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. Especially when you start the game, you have the feeling of, oh, there's just a few stars next to me, there is nothing, right? But it's misleading, because the reality is like, this is only the things that your empire can see at the beginning. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the thing that is around you. So you can use your frigates to make some basic exploration, and after you're going to need to have survey ships to survey ruins and to make deeper scans. But you can also have remote exploration like this to scan specific quadrant of the galaxy, and you're going to find new things. You're going to find, for example, a black hole. You're going to find a rogue planet just like that I didn't see that at the beginning. This is a rogue planet, and I found it later thanks to the remote exploration, right? You can find a boson star. You can find many things around. So it's not because you don't see a lot of things at the beginning around your planet that means that there is nothing, right? But you also have a sense that you are discovering things, because once you have discovered everything, then the game would tell you like, all this is empty because it's all discovered, and you can continue to progress to discover all around until you finish to discover the entire system, right? And that can also give you some military information as well, because at one point during the playthrough, I was at war with the Novas in here, and I was in range to make a remote exploration, like scanning, and I was able to go into that planet and see the strength of their grand force and things like that from a distance. Now, that being said, some people may say like, that can break maybe the balance of the game. I don't want to be able to see so easily the defense. Personally, I don't necessarily think that that's too much of a problem, because I needed time to reach that planet. Like, it's not like you can straight away scan and reach the point where they were, and you need many turns before you can do it. So it just makes sense that at a certain point in the game, you have your scans in the area are long enough so you can probe them. So I don't necessarily see that being too much of an issue. And beyond that, I'm not able to see what is exactly in the ground. I just see the ground defense, but I don't know if there is necessarily a ship there or whatever. So, I think it's okay. And honestly, it adds a good aspect to the exploration, which is, you have your ships to explore, But if you don't want to use your ships to explore because you don't want to pay for the maintenance cost of your ships and all that stuff, you can do it this way too, and it works. So that's for that. The 6 Pro. What else? Yeah, I mean, the economy is simple. As I said, like if you are looking for a game but you want to step your toe into the 4X genre, this game will do wonders for you. And also the tutorial, the 7.1, the tutorial is pretty good. All right, like you have someone coming along. There's a lot of talking by the game, instead of not a lot as in the sense of talking for hours, but a lot of the text that you're supposed to read, the first part of it is being voice acted, and I really appreciated that, because the part that is being voice acted is really the part that you need to know to have an idea of what they're talking about. And if you want to see more about it, you can just read. Okay, and the text is pretty short and precise and concise. Generally, when you read a text, you know what you need to know, right? Which brings back to the previous pro that I said, that the game is pretty well documented, but the tutorial is very good as well. If you just do the tutorial once, after you can deactivate it and you can fly with your own wings, and that would be perfectly fine. Okay. And after the 8th Pro, I would say, time flies in this game, right? The time flies. I've been doing the series to test the game. I played, 5 or 6 hours of it, and I didn't see the time pass. I had this, next turn effect. The same effect that you have in some civilization games, like, just one more turn. And I had this effect there, right? And you have a little bit this feeling in Galactic Civilization 2, and sometimes the Galactic Civilization 3. But in this game, I really had this feeling of, I don't want to stop now. I just want to know what's next. What's next. And it just keeps you engaged, right? There's very, very often, there's always something going on, a new research, a new exploration, an event, a diplomatical request, a new construction, new ships. There's something always to keep you hooked. And even if there is nothing for a few turns, you just pass, for 1, 2, 3 turns, you pass, and then something happens, say, boom, and boom, and the game engages you. You're always hooked, you're always engaged, and I like that very much. Okay, so all that is for the pros. Let's go to the cons. So the first con, I personally think that 6 races is way too little. I know that the developers have tried to make this game, how can I say, try to make all the races feel different, right? But in reality, you have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a 6th race, the Sulak, that are not represented here, but and this is literally showing what I'm talking about. There are 6 portraits in the game, right? And you are seeing, 80% of them right here. There's the human, there's the mortar, the nova, the kayak, the dragul, and the sulak. But you cannot see that, but it's the 6th one. And, I know that it's 3D modeled and all that stuff, but I really would appreciate more choices. That being said, you can, as I said previously, create your own race, which is exactly what I did. As you can see, like the Scythian is a version that I created, a different version of the kayak. The kayak is the default race, and the Scythian is my version of the kayak. They are very different. They have nothing to do with each other. But because there's only 6 portraits, it looks like they are the same when they are really not. Now, I do understand that, doing 3D models and all that stuff, like it's hard to to do many portraits. But I think having the possibility to add your own picture, maybe it would be nice to add it in the game. You don't necessarily need to have a 3D, vision about it. It's cool, but it's not necessary, like if I go here and say, oh yeah, I see my dude is moving, but it would be okay for me if it's just a picture. I have no issues with that being just a picture. So at least I can put my own picture. If I want to play the Borgs, I can put a picture of the Borgs. If I want to play the Romulans, or if I want to play the Goa'uld or whatever, or if I want to play something whatever, it would be cool to just replace that and just put a picture, and then you can name your race, you can customize your race, and it will feel more personalized, right? So that's the first con. As I said, I don't feel that there is enough races in the game, and even if you can really customize your own race pretty quickly, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a lot of options provided by the game, right? In the sense of, okay, I did my Surian race and I really love playing with them. They play the way that I intended to play with them, with the perks and all that stuff. But even the perks that is selectable, there is quite a few and it's respectable, but it could be more options, and you could have more customizable options for the portraits and things like that. That's definitively 100% guaranteed. The second con that I would say on this, I don't necessarily think there is enough customization of the actual galaxy, right? The only options that you have, and I think I can, let me do this. I will save. Okay, and we're gonna exit to the main menu, and we're gonna go in the new game. And as you can see, like as I said in my first videos, like this is very light. Like you don't have the control of the shape of the galaxy. You just have the control of the size, of the difficulty, the number of players. You can deactivate the election victory. You can add a few things there, but in comparison of what is accessible in Distant Worlds, Stellaris, even Galactic Civilization 3 and so forth, I feel that this is a little bit limited. And this is coming back to the third con, right? The third con is the graphics. Now, before arguing with me in the graphic and saying that the graphics are not important in a 4X, I will just say this. I'm the first one saying that the graphics are not super important in a 4X game. To be honest, I don't care. One of my favorite 4X game of all time is Distant World Universe, and Distant World Universe is not a game like Stellaris with beautiful sceneries and stars and ships, 3D model and all that jazz, right? It's just a bunch of sprite going in the screen. It's far from being the most beautiful game ever. But in exchange of lower graphics, you are supposed to have more options. You're supposed to have more complexity, more depth, right? And this is the thing that I feel on the con, what I'm talking about is like, why are there so little configurations about my galaxy? Why can I not choose the shape of my galaxy? Why can I not choose where the enemies may be in the galaxy? Why can I not define how much monsters there would be? Or if, for example, how many, what is the degree of how many exploration sites or events? So I can define the events there, how many events are going to happen, but it's only 3 options, right? Why can I not have more options there, right? So I know that it can sound picky, but if you have less graphics, you should have more options, right? And that's the thing that I feel that is a con in here. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, in the game itself, you have a fair amount of options. But in a counterpart, if you look, for example, at other games that have lower graphics, right, than Stellaris or even a Galactic Civilization, you have more starting options and you also have more depth in the game. Now, I know that the developers want to focus on a very specific area of the 4X genre, I think. They want to make a game that is fun, enjoyable, easy to get into, and I think they did a very good job for that. But I don't think that the excuse that this new game setup is very poor. You should have, as I said previously, more choices for the races. I know that it's hard to have many race choices if you want to make them balanced and feel unique, but still you should have more races choices, more options with your galaxy, more options on your victory conditions, right? More options with the customization of your empire, because except the perks of your empire and your special abilities, and naming your empire, your guy in the homeworld and the kata, why can I not choose my flag, that's going to represent my empire? Why not? Just like in other games I can do. It can sound like a detail, but if you are playing a game with low graphics like that, you should be entitled to have some more customization. Now, as I said, like the graphics are, not that bad, right? You still have a 3D model and all that stuff. The ships are pretty well represented. But in comparison of what you can expect from other games in the genre, like Stellaris and Galactic Civilization, the graphics is definitively not a pro in this game, right? So don't buy this game expecting it's going to be beautiful or it's going to be, beautiful sceneries, because it's not going to be the case. And because it's not going to be the case, you should have more options in your game settings. You should also have the possibility to have more depth in some certain areas of the game. So if I go back to my save, all right, what I mean by that is like there are certain things that you can control and certain things that you cannot control at all. And I feel that the things that you cannot control at all, it's a little bit sad, right? That you should have the option to control it. Like for example, that's another save, but that's perfectly fine. Who cares? So this is with the Terrans, and there's a space elevator, and it looks pretty good, and I like it, and all that stuff. But why cannot I interact more with my civilization, right? Why cannot I interact more with my population, just like with Galactic Civilization 3? Why can I not, have more intricacy with the tiles there and say, I want to construct the economic capital here and put maybe the cloning facility there next to the technical capital, because it's going to have a synergy bonus, right? Now you're going to say, well, this is a Galactic Civilization 3 mechanic, and it's true, but to be honest, like this is the kind of thing that you could have in this game, like everything is there, right? To be able to do that. I don't see why we would not have the option to control where we construct the things, and maybe having a simplified version where you can have like tiles close to your town, and the things that are closer to the main city may have more power, the things that are further away, they have less power, or something like that, right? Now that's the kind of thing that if you want to get into it, that's perfectly fine. But if you don't, then you can ignore it and just play the game that you want, right? And that's what I'm saying is like there are certain things that you would normally think that you could be able to control, right? And you just can't, and it's a little bit sad. So if you, said in the aspect of if you are expecting this game to be super deep and being able to micromanage everything, forget it. this game is not about micromanaging. This game is just asking you to manage the thing that, you know, the game estimate that you may be interested in managing, and automating everything else, right? And I don't necessarily think that that's too much of a problem, but I know that some people are going to be annoyed by that, right? So that, what else? Oops, sorry. What else? As I can, yeah. Also the view. So not being able to see my ships in here, I found it a little bit sad. And not being able to see the rotation of planets, I think it's a little bit sad, because you can see the asteroids being able to rotate. I don't see why you will not be able to see the planets rotating. Now you're gonna say like, well, that's a detail, but you know, if it's the kind of detail that is not complicated to do, it's not like complicated to do. I'm not the one coding the game, so I'm not gonna criticize it, but it's the kind of detail that you would appreciate. And there, for example, if you have your fleet that is in the solar system, why cannot I see where my fleet is? Right? It's in the solar system, but where? You know? Because the game is giving you possibility to control your fleet in battle. That's great. So you can control where the fleet is going and being attacked, etc. in combat. But why cannot I say, hey, I want my fleet deployed around the Terra, right? Or whatever, my colony and Sol, and not there? Why can I not, when I come in the solar system, going in the Jupiter gas, right? And then staying there, gathering forces, and after launching an attack there, you know? And that's the kind of thing that you can do in, for example, Galactic Civilization 3. You know, this game in terms of map management is very close to Galactic Civilization 3, but they move away from Galactic Civilization 3 in the sense like, okay, well, you know, you see your ships moving from solar system to solar system, but you don't see your ship being managed in the solar system. There is a view for the solar system, there is a view for the galaxy map, there is a view for the planet, right? And it's 3 different views. And in Galactic Civilization, the galaxy map and the solar system are the same thing, right? So some people are gonna find that annoying. Some people will not care. Me, personally, it is not too much of an issue, but still I'm a little bit disappointed that I cannot just see my ship, or at least even not a 3D rendering of my ship, but just even the icons and say, oh, they are in Terra, or they are in Venus, or they're in Jupiter, or whatever. And being able to manage that aspect, right? So that would have been cool. And that's the thing that I'm saying is like the management of the ship is pretty good in the combat, is decent in the exploration, but it is not very good in inside the solar systems and things like that, because you can't literally see it. You go in Sol, you have a fleet in Sol, you know that you have a support ship there. You may even have 2 frigates and a destroyer there, but you will not know where they are. They're just in the solar system, right? They're just there, right? So if someone come in your solar system, you can automatically defend against it, as if the solar system is just so small that it doesn't matter where they are in the solar system. You can just jump in them and attack them. And, you know, that's a little bit weird because the solar system is still pretty big. And you should be able to jump into Jupiter or jump into Venus, gather forces, and jump into Earth or whatever after, or forcing the ships to fight not on Earth but in orbit of Jupiter, so they don't have the bonuses of defense on Earth or things like that, right? But all that, you will not have it here. You will not have it here. That being said, is that a big issue? Once again, it depends on the kind of game that you want to play. And I will come to that at the end of the video. The last con that I would say in the game. Enfin, last con. The other con that I would say in the game, I think I'm at the fourth or fifth con. It's not necessarily a real con. It's more like neutral, right? It's a pro and a con. The abilities, I think it's an interesting mechanic for the race, right? To have those abilities, but certain abilities, like for example, the Armistice, right, and the Prestige are pretty good ones. But there are certain instances where, for example, production is super important, right? And this is not necessarily a good example. I need to go back to the oops, sorry. I need to go back to my over save to illustrate what I'm saying. Because there are certain abilities that are, that can be very good in a specific game, and there are some abilities that they can be, pretty hard to apply in other games, right? Now, if you look, for example, in this, I have the Collective Transcendence and I have the Enlightenment. So this is a race that is all based on research. But regardless, production is super important. And those two abilities, they're going to enhance your research, but they're going to hinder your production. And there are multiple instances that I wanted to use them, but I just didn't because I didn't want to use my production because, especially in the early game, production is kind of an issue. You need to always make sure that your production is as high as you can to pump the infrastructures of the planet and pump the ships and all that stuff. And it feels like if you move away from that, then it's really going to hinder your development in infrastructure and spaceships and things like that. So it's really a trade-off. And there are certain abilities that can feel that that can penalize you more to use them than others, right? So those ones on paper seem very good. And don't get me wrong, they are very good. But even if you play a research race, you still need production. And if you have an ability that hurts production, you're really going to need to think twice before using it. Whereas there are other abilities that oh yeah, I'm at war. I can use Armistice from the human. There's no reason not to. There's no... The only penalty to do it is the compensation thing. But honestly, if you want to end the war, paying 1 credit per turn being at war if you haven't been the attacker, that's very reasonable. Even if you pay 3 credit per turn because you were the one attacking, that's 30 credits. I mean, if you can afford it, that's not too bad, right? But even if you are pretty low, you still can do it. It's not going to be such of a hindrance, right? So what I'm trying to say is there are certain abilities that are easier to use than others, and I'm not necessarily sure if they are all well balanced. Now I need to play the game more to see that by myself. But for example, in this playthrough, for many times I wanted to use it, but I just couldn't, because even if I play a research race, to do the research, I need to develop my infrastructures as soon as possible, and I couldn't afford to reduce my pop. Right, so I never really used it in my playthrough. Now, does it mean that I will not be able to use it in the future? Certainly not. I'm pretty sure that in the future, maybe in 100 turns or 120 turns, when the production would be more developed, that would not be an issue, and then you can use those abilities. Okay, but as I said, there are other abilities that you can use as soon as you are in war, or other abilities that doesn't penalize you as much as those ones. Whenever you have a penalty in your production, you really need to think twice before doing it, because you really need your production. In almost any game that you're going to play of ISG, you're going to need to have a pretty decent manufacturing capability. Anyway, so that's for the abilities. As I said, it's not necessarily a con, but it's not necessarily a pro either. It's something different. So that's why it's neutral. Some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it. I personally think that I like it, but I just want to point out that some abilities may be more penalizing to use than other. That's what I felt in that playthrough. Okay, and let me think if I have any other things. Yeah, well, I mean, the size of the map, that's the size that I choose. Again, as I said previously, more customization in the game, that would be nice. You can play with larger system. This is a medium one. And as I said, like the scale of the game feels to me a little bit small, you know? If you have to compare the scale of the game, like again, Galactic Civilization 3, Distant World Universe, or even Stellaris, you know, and this is coming back to the fact that there's only 6 default races, right? Even if you can customize your race, you have to create those races. You don't have to choose from pre-created ones. You need to create them yourself. And, you know, you may do good races, but you may do, you know, total duds or, you know, but it's not playable. So that's why the fact that the game relies so heavily in customizable races is a pro and a con at the same time, because yeah, you can increase the number of races that is in the game, but once again, and that's coming back from the game customization at the beginning, I don't necessarily feel that I have a good control of which race I want to be in the game, which race I don't want to be in the game. You know, what if I want to have 3 humans and 2 Sulak and no Novas, right? It, like, I may be wrong. Like, maybe there's a way to activate some race and to deactivate the other races, but when we're in the new game option, you know, I can have the choice to choose them or not choose them. Now, you know, I can go 2 races, but how can I define which race I want to play against? You see, like, I created a custom race here. That's my race. So first, like, to be able to see all the races that are having a slider, that's not necessarily very practical. And what if I want to play, you know, on a small map? Oh, sorry. I want to play on a small map with three races. And I want to play human, so I'm gonna play as a human, and I want to play against the Mortar and the Dragor. Alright? How can I do that? You know, it doesn't seem that I have the possibility to define which race is gonna be in the game, and I think that's poor. You should be able to have just selecting, like, I want this race, this race, this race. Right? Or I want to play six players, where I want all the races. I want to play the Sunians, which is the race that I created, and I want all the races without the humans. You know? Or I want to play the Sunian, and I want all the other races to be humans. It doesn't seem that I can do that, and I think it's pretty poor. For a game that doesn't have, you know, that is not investing so much in graphics. That's the kind of customization that you should be entitled to have, you know, like being able to choose who you play against, you know, is kind of important. But, you know, at the end of the day, and this is what I'm going to do to conclude, right? So I said the pros, I said the cons. Now I'm gonna give my general review and impression about the game. I personally think that this game is very good, right? I loved it. I played 64. I think I played like 50 or 60 turns in my first playthrough, and I played in this playthrough like 64 turns, and I enjoyed it, right? In a few hours, I was able to understand the game, to play the game, and I had the, you know, one more time, one more turn kind of vibe of the game very quickly. At no point, I really felt like that I was uninterested. The game always keep me hooked. The combat is interesting. The research is interesting. The fact to create your own faction is interesting. Yeah, and I really feel that 64 turns in the game is just starting, right? It's just starting. It's just starting to be interesting. There is more stuff happening. There is interaction with the other races. I mean, it's just the beginning of the game, and to be honest, I love it. That being said, as I said, I pick up this game at release. That means that so I'm in Australia, so I pay in Australian dollars, like something like 45 Australian dollars, which is the equivalent of maybe like 30 US dollars, approximately. I mean, do I think that this game is worth $30? I think it's borderline. I think it's with the current options that they are in the game, with the current number of races in the game, and the current customization and all that stuff, and the graphics is very, very borderline. I think before picking up this game, you should wait to have a summer sale or a winter sale, and to wait to pick it up, at maybe 15 US dollars or 20 US dollars or something like that. Because 30 US dollars or maybe 45 Australian is very demanding for a game that seems a little bit rough and in polish in some areas that you would expect a game like this at that price would be good. And as I said, like the game customization at the beginning, for me, that's a big no-no. Like, you should have more options. There's no reason why you cannot choose the shape of your galaxy. There's no reason why you have more control over the race that you play against in the game. There's no reason why you cannot, import your own portraits. I mean, more options with your victory conditions. And all this is important because the game is a single player game. So the replayability of the game depends on how many flavors of the game you can have, right? And even if you can customize the race, you only have 6 portraits, which means that it feels very little. Even if you create, 20 races that you spend on your own time creating 20 races, when the game could have provided you more options, really, to do so, then they're all gonna have the same portraits. Like you only have 6 portraits. So even if you create 20 other races, you can only play with 6 portraits, which make the game feel very small. And I personally think that if the game has this level of graphic and is requesting that price, it should give more options to the players on how to play the game, because other games have done so. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I personally think that still 30 US dollars is a fair price for this game. I think it is, if you really love the 4X game, or if you want to step your toe in the 4X game genre, you're interested to play the game, or those kinds of game, and you don't want to sink, hundreds of hours in Distant World Universe to understand how it works, and you want to have at least a game that offers some decent combat options, right? Not like Stellaris or Galactic Civilization 3, where it's just like a pew pew in the screen. Like, yeah, it looks awesome, but I'm spending so many hours doing all those ships and I can't even control them. Some people found it frustrating. I found it frustrating that I don't have a better control over my ships. And this game allows you that. It's awesome. So if you are a little bit bored by Galactic Civilization 3 and Stellaris, by the fact that you cannot control your fleet, you cannot control your ships, this game could be good for you. All right. And even if it's $40, 45 Australian and 30 US, it's still cheaper than buying, Galactic Civilization 3 with all the extensions, or buying Stellaris with the key extensions, because if you have to buy all the extension and DLCs and all that stuff, it would be for hundreds of dollars. So, I mean, for the price, if you really want to step in and discover the genre, I think this game is wonderful to introduce you to the genre. If you are a veteran and you are used to manage everything, you want to have full control of your fleet, etc., this game is not going to be for you, right? Like, I'm used to play with Distant World Universe, where I can fit every module in my ship. I have to manage the 40 or 50 different resources all over spread of the galaxy, and making sure that they reach the correct starship and of a starport to construct the right ships and all that stuff. You don't have this level of detail in this game, and it's not meant to be, right? So it's more like, okay, well, I want to have a good 4X game. I have a good time, and I don't want to overthink stuff. This game would be wonderful. If you're looking for complexity, if you're looking for logistics or being able to control everything, this game is not for you. It's not gonna allow you to do it. It's also not a graphic fest game. It's not Stellaris, and it's not even Galactic Civilization 3. It's the graphics are way poorer than that, and it's meant to be just simple but functional, right? Simple but functional kind of game. But that's the reason why I'm saying it's simple but functional, but as well it should be offering more options. Now, if in the future they offer updates or DLC for the game, where you can have more races, where you can have more perks to create your own races, more portraits, more events, more technologies and all that stuff, I think, this game can be pretty challenging. And as I said, I'm 64 turns in the game, and I have the impression that I scratched the surface, but at the same time, I don't have the impression that I scratched the surface at the same level than Distant World Universe. It feels like, okay, well, I played 64 turns, I have a good understanding of the core mechanics of the game. I think if I sink maybe 5 extra hours in the game, I will understand 80% of everything that needs to be understood of the game pretty easily, and that's it, right? So, you need to keep that in mind, right? I don't necessarily think that this game is going to offer you the same kind of replayability that a Distant World Universe would, or even as Stellaris can feel pretty linear, but when a Galactic Civilization 3 offers way more options in terms of race, starting points, size of galaxies, victory conditions than this game. But this game offer combat tactics with your ships, which Galactic Civilization doesn't. So again, it comes back to what kind of game you want to play. If combat is not important to you, then this game is not going to be better than a Galactic Civilization 3, right? Galactic Civilization 3 has more DLCs, more content, is graphically more appealing than this game. So I would not recommend you to buy ISG if you're not interested in space combat, or it's not a big focus for you. But if space combat and managing your ships in combat is important to you, just like me, then that could be a good alternative to Galactic Civilization 3. You can buy this game. It will be cheaper than buying all the DLCs of Galactic Civilization 3, even in a summer sale. And you can have a decent playability, right? Same thing if you are a beginner, you want to see if this game, you want to give a shot, you're on the fence, you're not necessarily sure. I can tell you, if you are a beginner at the 4X genre, and you want to step into it, this game would be a wonderful introduction for you. Wonderful. It will help you get the core mechanics of a 4X game, and then maybe after you can step into something maybe a more complex if you so choose in the future, or you can stay in this. But I really think for people that want to start a 4X game, this is the go-to game, right? And as I say, like me, my personal impression, I say I love this game. I will certainly continue to play it. I would definitively recommend it, but only for people that are starting on the 4X genre, or for people that want an alternative to Galactic Civilization 3 that offer combat option in ships. I think this game, that is his point. Like, it's a Galactic Civilization 3 simplified with fleet combat options. If that's what you're interested in, then this game is going to deliver. If you don't care about fights and you want to focus more in the Empire, then Galactic Civilization or Stellaris is way better. Now, the caveat to that is also the price. As I say, if you want to have the equivalent in Galactic Civilization 3 or Stellaris, it's going to cost you way more money than buying this game. So that's why I think in that instance, the price is fair and is even worth paying $30 at release. But if you're not sure and you just want to try, but you're not sure about it, wait that the game goes in summer sale, pick it up at $20 and give it a try. I can tell you, if you are even remotely interested in a 4X genre, this game you're gonna love it. It's an awesome game. Okay, awesome game. So to give an appreciation, I think on the overall game, in terms of let's talk about graphics. Graphics, I would say it's a 4 out of 10. Ambience and sound, the music is decent, but the effects in battle, etc., is not necessarily super great. So I would give a 5 out of 10. The gameplay, I would give a good 7 out of 10. Easy. It's pretty good, pretty engaging. Replayability, I think a 6 out of 10, but with the number of races and the portraits, I will more lean around a 5. But just because there is the customizable race is so good, I will still keep it at 6. All right. So the overall mark that I'm gonna give for this game is gonna be a 6 out of 10, right? And if you're really interested in combat, that will put the mark at 7 out of 10, I think. But if you're not interested in combat, it's a 6 out of 10. If you have the money, grab Galactic Civilization 3, Stellaris. But if you don't have the money and you want an alternative, this game can be good. And if you really want to give a try, or if you really want to have a fighting option, pick up this game. It's a very good alternative to Galactic Civilization 3. For my part, I think I would be interested playing this game in the future. I may be interested at one point doing a Let's Play, but it's definitively not going to be a priority. Like, if I have to choose between doing a Let's Play of Distant World Universe or a Let's Play of ISG, I would prefer Distant World Universe. But if you guys request it, I can do it. I can do a long playthrough of ISG. If you put comments in the review, in the comment section below of this video, if there is enough comments, I will definitively do it, no problem. And even so, maybe at one point, if I want to change from Distant World Universe, I can pick up this game and do it in the future. So it's definitively a possibility. Anyway, I think I will wrap up this video. It's longer than I expected to be, but I just really wanted to I give a full impression review of this game. Hopefully that will shed some lights and help you decide if you want to buy it or not. I personally think it's a great game. It's definitively not perfect, but if you're looking for an alternative of Galactic Civilization 3 with combat options, it's definitively a good options, and it's a fair price. If you don't care about fighting or managing your fleet in combat, then, and you have the money, of course, then Galactic Civilization 3 or Stellaris will be better. Okay, so this was Solaris, right? Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe. That will really help the channel, and I will catch you on the next video.